Hey, welcome to another great episode of the Real Deal Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harden. Happy Tuesday evening, September 23rd. Looking forward to this upcoming episode. Got a great guest waiting in the wings. But before I bring her on, hit my music. Let's get it. All right. Once again, welcome to another great episode of the Real Deal Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harden. Glad to be back once again with a new episode. And you can follow the show on all the podcast platforms, whether it's Spotify, Apple, YouTube. We're on the BS3 Network Roku channel, also BS3TVLive.com. Wherever you consume your podcast, we are there. iHeartRadio, Spreaker, everywhere, anywhere. Like I said, you can download the Real Deal with Courtney Hart to get all the episodes on all, like I said, all the podcast platforms. And you can follow me on all the social media platforms, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it these days. I still call it Twitter, but Facebook, Instagram. That's where I'm mostly active. Instagram and Blue Sky and TikTok. I'm on both of them as well. So yeah, follow me. I get the Real Deal on all those platforms. Well, let me bring in my guest here. We She has a podcast. She has her own podcast. So the algorithm, she had one of a good friend of mine of the show, Casey Stanhart, on her show. So I started listening to her podcast and really enjoyed it. So I reached out to her, and here she is. So let me bring her on. Josie Broyles. She is a, let's see, you do reporting, podcasting, sideline reporting, Big Ten Network. Josie Reports. The podcast is Fierce in the Field, so check it out on all the podcast platforms as well. So, Josie, welcome to the show. Really appreciate it.
Of course, Courtney, thank you for having me. Like I said, I podcast myself, so I love returning the favor and getting to learn about new shows. So this is awesome. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for accepting the invite. Like we said before we started recording, and I really appreciate the time and appreciate your time. And yeah, looking forward to getting to know you a little bit and talk about your podcast, how you got into sports reporting, media, and all those things. And you're a woman of many hats, so you're doing your thing. So I love to see people just being able to do what they like to do in their craft and really build and everything too. So look forward to get to know you a little bit.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm look forward to getting to know you a little bit better. I love that you thought of me to have you as a guest, have me as a guest on your show. So it really does mean a lot. But
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. Yeah, well, like I said, I appreciate it. And well, yes, let's get started. My first question I always ask my first time guest, who is Josie Broyles? And just give a little quick intro of how you got into what you like to do and just in sports in general.
Yeah. Well, my name's Josie Broyles. I'm 21 years old, so I'm a senior at Indiana University. I'm studying broadcast journalism at their media school with a concentration in sports broadcasting. So I first got into it my freshman year of college. I went in as a broadcast journalism major, not
Mm.
knowing what specifically I wanted to do. I grew up a big sports fan, was always very indulged in that environment, but I didn't specifically know what was the right path for me. And I kind of just got thrown into it. I met with a couple sports directors just by a whim as a freshman, got thrown into reporting for women's soccer first semester my freshman year, and I really enjoyed it and I fell in love with it, and the rest is
Okay.
basically history. But yeah, now I'm a senior. I just released a podcast in June called Fierce in the Field, which is basically just showing women in the sports industry, whether they're athletes, reporters, directors, managers. We've got a few coaches that are in the can
Mhm.
right now, so I'm excited to share those episodes. But yeah, I've covered tons of sports at IU, and it's just basically been nonstop ever since freshman year.
Nonstop. So yes, and they said senior now, so I know you're ready for graduation
Yes.
very soon, and for sure, we already got some comments. You guys have any questions too for Josie? Please feel free. The chat is open. So Nathan Ramasandra says, "What's up?" He says, "Hi, Josie." So he is a loyal listener, so really appreciate him. Always tuning in, and he said this is amazing. So yes, for sure. So yes, the journey of sports journalism and broadcasting. Talk about the things that you've learned so far within your journey, young journey so far of what you've been doing over the last few years. Talk about like the what you've seen over the last few years of how sports journalism is, being taught, and just the landscape of it as well.
Yeah, well, I think just regardless of how it's being taught, we are very encouraged to use social media. So I think social media has been
Yes.
huge. Using X has been huge. It wasn't a thing that we, used in high school. I wasn't a constant X user, so being able to promote ourselves through that. So that's probably been the biggest thing that we've learned, and the biggest thing is, Gen Z. That's basically the majority of students that go to the school. But
Right.
I think in general, the biggest takeaway that I've had is just to never say no to an opportunity. There's so
Yeah.
much room to learn and to grow in things that you're uncomfortable with. And something that IU has really challenged me with has been getting out of my comfort zone. And even if, someone asked me to cover a wrestling duel a couple years ago and I was terrified, I'm like, I don't know anything about that. But, I did my research. I talked to players and wrestlers and coaches and all of the above, and it made it work. So just never say no to an opportunity has probably been my biggest takeaway from studying sports journalism so far.
Okay, yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
As you said, when you get into something like sports journalism or broadcasting and everything too, you're learning different things. And you, even as a student, you've juggled a lot of multiple roles. Big Ten, you said they got the podcast as well. How do you manage that time and prioritize these different commitments and working a variety of roles as well? Because it does show versatility. You said you're not going to say no to opportunity, and I think that's a really good thing, and it develops your skills moving forward.
Yeah, it's definitely hard. It's definitely something that I've gotten better at since, being a freshman, being a sophomore, now
Yeah,
being a senior. And it's gotten easier, but there are days when I'm super busy and I freak out a little bit, but I think it's important to just kind of keep yourself grounded, take a couple deep breaths. That's usually my first step if my schedule gets
yes,
a little packed. Um, Also just being able to have good communication with people,
oh
like
yeah,
being able to schedule you knowing that you're going to be, able to work at this time in the morning, and knowing that maybe you're not going to be able to, I don't know, keeping a good calendar in your head is definitely super duper helpful. And also knowing that sometimes you do have to turn down some things to work, which, it's a part of the job. You work on weekends in sports, you work late at night and during news. So
yeah,
that was definitely an adjustment as, a college student, when the norm is to kind of go out with your friends and, have a ton of
mm,
fun, stay out all night, not worry about what you have to do in the morning, when, you can have that sometimes, but it's also important to know I've got to get to bed, or I've got to wake up early, or I've got to do this day. So
yeah,
just kind of thinking clearly about things. I love to keep a planner. I'm a big person. I love to write everything down. So
yep.
color code my schedule, things like that. So everyone kind of has a different strategy when doing so, but it definitely just takes time and it's a learning process. You've got to throw yourself into it to kind of know how you're going to adjust in the future.
Definitely. And I think, like I said, I got my notebook here as well. I write down
Yes.
everything
Oh
that you
yeah.
said. It's just always about writing. I think when I, have guests, we're going to talk about the podcast and how you pick your guest and everything too. But I've always find that fascinating because we all have different ways of who you want on the show, and how do you reach out, and things like that, which I always I find great when, when I have someone that has a podcast or does, interviewing and things like that. So, but yeah, you're right. I think it's great to, like I said, prioritize those things, but also have time to be with, have your friends, family, and have that good, so have that strong support. Who's some of your strongest support, as you said, as you try to say, well, I got a sideline, I got to do this sport for sideline reporting, or I got to do this and do that. How do you, like I said, who's like that support group for you to keep you grounded, keep you motivated, and you said in balance as well?
Yeah, well, I'm lucky to have really great friends around me. I think that's very important. Have friends that
Yeah.
really understand your schedule.
Yes.
It's hard to say no sometimes too, because you also equally probably want to hang out with your friends and kind of want to do the fun
Hmm.
stuff. My family is also a big support system for me. They watch every broadcast that I'm on. They watch every podcast episode. They give me advice if I need it.
Hmm.
My mom has been a huge help, but my dad also works in media, so he kind of has helped me a lot with the process of launching a podcast and just being a media student in general. So kudos to him. But yeah, I think I'm lucky enough to have a great support system behind me. So that's definitely something that gets me up in the morning and keeps me driven.
Yeah, for sure. You got to definitely have a good support system, whether it's family, friends, colleagues, so anybody like that is very well. What do you think is your, I would say, like what's your favorite skill set that you have as a podcaster or a sideline reporter? Anything you've done so far? What do you think is your favorite skill set that you have?
That's a good question. Oh, I
Right.
don't know. I think interviewing has definitely been a
Okay.
and I would say the transition, kind of learning how to, interviewing for a sideline is very different from interviewing for a podcast episode.
Hmm. Hmm.
And obviously, like, as I've been technically learning how to be a sideline reporter in school, I had to kind of get my questions down to a very specific, keep them short, but also make sure you're asking a strong question, everything like that. I kind of had to
Oh yeah.
know. And then when I launched a podcast, I was like, oh, I guess I can kind of ask a question however I want to,
Yes,
it's supposed
yeah,
to be
this
a
is
big
your
question.
podcast, right, right.
Exactly. And I think like
Yeah.
realizing that I can give myself some creative freedom in my podcast has been really cool, but also learning how to balance both things and still stay true to myself, without following an exact script has been pretty cool.
Mhm.
So I guess just being able to learn how to do the two at the same time and learning the differences, and they've both helped me in different ways. So very cool.
Yeah, yes, for sure. And like you said, the art of interviewing is
Yes.
always I try to, and you probably do the same thing. Try to, like I said, don't say ask the same questions.
Yes.
Depending on the thing who your guest is, try to go at a different angle. Is engaging. I'm always thinking of questions and different questions and everything too. I really take that I like I said the art of interview. I take that really seriously, and you seem the same way because of the episodes I've listened to of you. I love the questions you've done. You have constructed to your guest and things like
Thank
that. So I
you.
really appreciate that. Yeah. So let's talk about let's get into the podcast since we brought
Yeah.
it up.
Let's do it.
Fierce in the Field.
Yeah.
What made you start the podcast?
Oh my goodness, it was on a whim. It was
Mm,
crazy. So
mhm,
I worked an internship with Fox Sports on site in Los Angeles in the spring. It was in production and talent development. It was incredible. We got to cover
yeah.
their first IndyCar season with Fox Sports. So that was super cool. But I had a cool end of the internship project where we were basically pitching broadcast ideas. And I was assigned to pitch an idea for their pit reporters, which is essentially their
Mm,
sideline reporters
right.
during an IndyCar and NASCAR race. And I figured out that there is an IndyCar Next series, and there were only two female drivers in the IndyCar Next series, which is basically like your training series for IndyCar. So like the
Mm,
IndyCar novices kind of. Um, and I came up with this idea, the idea called She's Next, basically featuring the female pit reporters as well as featuring the female IndyCar drivers.
okay.
Um, and lo and behold, I just, like I'm a female myself that's in the sports industry.
Right.
So it was cool for me to learn about that. And I was like, this was a really cool thing to research. I want to do this more. And my boss at Fox Sports encouraged me over the summer between that semester and my senior year to do something for myself, to make content for myself,
Mhm.
promoting myself as a reporter, as someone that's going to be looking for a professional full-time job at the end of May. So I came up with a podcast, and I was like, you know what? I want to keep learning about women in the sports industry, not only athletes, but I want to learn about the reporters who I was very, had the opportunity to learn about and
Yeah.
learn about IndyCar and all of that. And Fierce in the Field was kind of born. So
Okay.
I don't even, oh my God, I wish I could tell you how I came up with the name, because I'm obsessed with it myself. But I think I honestly just kind of came to me one day. I was like, oh, women are so fierce and strong and empowering in this
Yeah.
field. And then I was like, oh, Fierce in the Field.
Yeah.
Um, so that was kind of born, and I wanted to do something that I cared about. And something that I knew I was capable of doing. I'm from downtown Chicago. So for the summer, I went back home. And there's tons of women in sports in the Chicago land area. So I
Yes.
knew that I was able to possibly, get some of them on the show. And before I launched anything, I went ahead and I found a company that would help me with it. So I worked as a digital marketing intern for a company that had a podcast studio. So in exchange
Okay.
for me using their studio, I worked as their intern, which was, we can get into that later, but that was also so great getting to see, the digital marketing side of things a little bit
Right. Right.
change. It was awesome. But I made sure I had a studio to film it at. And then I got my first guest. Her name was Simone Roberts. She was Northwestern graduate and she was amazing. You should listen to that episode. That was the very first one. But
Yes.
yeah, I just kind of set everything down and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually doing this. And then I filmed my first episode and the rest is history. So it was really cool.
I love it, and it's an incredible podcast that highlights. You said your favorite women in sports industry, like you said, reporters, media. You said you can get athletes, if you get coaches. I'm sure like it's gonna really broaden. And you've had great. Like you said, you had great. Like you said, Casey Standahar was your latest
Yes.
podcast, which was, I mean, she's incredible, as you said.
She's incredible. She's
Yes,
amazing.
very incredible, and you have a lot of other great guests, and so let's get into that, like your guest, and how do you reach out? I'm like I said, I find this fascinating. How do you reach out to your guests? You have a format of who you want on the show, specifically, or just okay, women want to share their stories. I find fascinating. I like their work. Is this okay? How do you format the show? How do you pick your guest?
Yeah, that's a good question. I remember first starting to look for guests through LinkedIn. So I think I
Mm,
really just gave it a basic search,
yep.
Chicago sports reporter or something like that. Cause I was like, let me maybe interview a sports reporter first because it's a little bit more comfortable for me. Um, and I found Simone. Um, Casey, I was able to network at Barrett Sports Media. There is an event in Chicago, and I met her there. And
Yep.
then we connected over the phone. And then I was able to have her come in for a podcast episode. Who else? Vanexa Hoxa is amazing. She was on because I found her through LinkedIn. Taylor McGregor was a mutual connection. She's amazing as well, if you know Taylor. But yeah, it's kind of random. I feel like I've made a lot of connections through just being from Chicago and being able to attend a couple of things. I've been able to meet some incredible women in that area. And then I've also been able to expand my network on LinkedIn as well. So LinkedIn and also just networking events in person has probably been where I've been most successful finding guests, but it's definitely not easy. I don't know how you feel about it, but I feel like it can
Yeah,
be easy at
it
times.
it depends, like you said. I guess depending on the season. I mean, if you try to so if you try to reach out, we will use Casey for instance. If you try to reach out to her now, it'll probably be hard to get her on because of her doing like sports reporting. She does
Yes.
covers football, and also works on NBC. And so that would be so. I guess depends on the season. And she does basketball too. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, so I guess depending on the season. Now off season, yeah, then I think you can really catch a lot of people. But yeah, it can be difficult, especially if you're booking your own guest,
Oh yeah.
for sure. And I'm with you the same way. I think LinkedIn and Instagram, maybe like I heard your show on Spotify, so that's where
Okay.
I said yeah. So I saw it and like I said, and then reached out to you through Instagram and yes, yeah. So networking is very, I love the challenge though. I really do,
Me
because
too.
someone you said, oh, hey, I want to have this person on the show. Where can I reach out? So I'm looking maybe for email or maybe if a DM. They said LinkedIn, anything like that, if it works. Or you said networking at events. That's another way to do it as well. So yeah, it can be a challenge, but I really
Yeah.
do enjoy the challenge.
It's tricky. I also found I was posting for Fierce in the Field on TikTok a little bit, which
Yeah.
I've always been on TikTok. Like I've always loved scrolling through TikTok. But oh my goodness, there is such an incredible sports community, especially women's sports community on TikTok. Because when I
Yeah.
started posting Fierce in the Field things, I got interest from there as well. And that was also a
Yeah.
cool way to get guests. So Also, just kind of a mutual online connection through TikTok also
Yeah.
helped.
Yep.
But it was crazy. Yeah, it's fun. It kind of just popped. Some of my guests have just kind of popped up randomly, but I'm so thankful because it's given me the opportunity to meet such cool people. So
Yeah, yes, and I think that's a good thing with social media, especially if you're looking for guests to interview, whether it's Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook or wherever. And it's just one of those like I've seen, like there'll be like some roundtable discussions or anything like that, or someone has an event as a roundtable, and I'm like, oh, I like what they, I'm gonna reach out to them. I like how they were, presented themselves or whatever. So I'm gonna reach out to them, and you find a way to they said get in touch with them, and I go directly right to the person if I can. I know some of them have agents and other things depending, but if I can, I'll go right
oh
straight to
yeah,
the source
get
itself.
their attention. Why not?
Yeah,
Just ask
yes,
them
yes.
directly.
Yeah, I think the worst thing, and I always say, people always ask, well, how do you get your guests? And what happens if you're persistent? I say, well, if they say no or they can't do it at the time, you got to just move on. You can't
Right.
really, harp on it or really get upset about it or
Yeah,
anything like that. I mean, you're gonna get no's, you're gonna get some yeses, and that's just the
and
way
that's
the
okay.
industry is. Yeah,
Watch is a part of life in
yeah,
general.
it's part of
You're
life
gonna
in
get some
general. Yeah,
no's.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah, and
yes.
it's never personal either. People
No,
are gonna
never.
be like you said, some people could be in season, some people could be like, "I just can't dig out a free hour right now," and some
Right.
people will come back too. People will
Yep.
reach out again.
They will, yep, and yes,
Yeah.
and I've had that too. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's fascinating. I
Mhm.
really do. So you like I say, you've had multiple guests now. Who are some guests that you would love to have on the show that you haven't interviewed yet?
Oh, that's such a good question. Oh my gosh. Wait,
If you
I
could
might have
do,
to think about that for a minute.
yeah, if you could do,
Um,
you could do a couple, like three. You don't
Lisa
have to be one. Be like three, four,
yes.
or five guests that you would love to have on your show.
Lisa Byington, if you know who that
Mm,
is.
yes, I
She
do.
yes, she is incredible. I met her wife, Shimmy, at Sky Broadcast. Um, so incredible. She has this amazing Lisa Byington Award. She's doing so much in the sports
Yeah.
industry in Chicago in general. I would love to interview her. Um, Annie Agar is another one. I've
Oh,
connected with
definitely.
her. She's amazing. She's just her
Mhm.
story is so insane. I like how she started on social media and then grew her platform that way. I
Yeah.
think it's super
Hmm.
cool because it's so different and she's so successful. I think that would be super cool. Oh my gosh, Paige Bruckers would be super cool as well. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like dreaming. I don't know if she would ever consider coming on my show, but she'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, those are probably on the dream board right now.
Okay. Yeah.
Any like dream guests?
My dream guest. Let's see. Oh, geez, there's a few I haven't had on yet. Agent Nicole Lynn, she's a super sports agent. She's been on the top of the list for a while, and I've been reaching out to her the last. She did respond a couple of years ago, because she was she was a lawyer, then agent, now super agent now. So she would be one. Oh, that's what you put me on the spot now.
Hey, you did it to me.
I
That
know,
was
I know, I
yeah,
know. I usually have a
yeah,
few. I mean, yes, like Jamel Hill would be one. Um, Carrie Champion. There's a few. There's quite a
yeah.
few I can name right off. Those would be a few that I can just name right off the top. But I do have a list. Like I had a list of people that every year I go through a list. Say, hey, I want to get a few of these Taylor Rooks for sure. I would love to have Taylor Rooks on the show because
That'd be
I
awesome.
just like the way she interviews. So we talk about how she frames questions. I think she's one of the best interviewers when it comes in this industry because
So well
she
spoken too.
yeah, very well spoken and,
Yes.
and and really knows how to frame the questions and really get the mostly athletes to talk. And she don't just ask them about their performance on the field and things like that. She asks them a lot of different things about like their family and personal things and what they like to do, vacations and all these things. So yeah, I really those would be some of the ones right off the top that I would love to have on the show.
Yeah. Oh my god, those are all such great options. I'm crossing my fingers for you. You can get them.
Thank you. You too, for
We can
sure.
both do it. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So, hey, we can
Yeah.
connect with each other and help each other
Exactly.
out. Like if you get someone like or anything like if I get Paige Beckers or something, I was like, hey, Josie got a podcast as
Yes.
well.
Gotta
That's
check her out.
that's how you connect. Yeah, reach out and yeah. So I think that's incredible, for sure. And he said the podcast. When do you usually air the podcast? Is it weekly? Is it or you try to do it weekly, once a week, twice a week?
Yes, so I've been aiming for once a week. I was very consistent with my every week schedule. So I would do an
Mhm.
interview series, which was about an hour, and then I would do like a little what's new in women's sports weekly segment.
Okay.
And it was pretty consistent over the summer. I'm definitely trying to get back in the groove of things. That's what's
Mm.
hard about being a student is that I
Yeah.
have classes and
Yeah,
assignments and
balancing it. Yep.
yeah, and then I got all of my IU media stuff, which is so much fun to do. But I'm like, okay, I had all the time in the world over the summer and I was operating on my own schedule. So I'm learning how to move that over here to IU and kind of learn how to incorporate first in the field with my school things. So right now I'm going on like bi-weekly for Fierce in the Field, but we're trying
Okay.
to speed it up a little bit because I've got some episodes in the can, which are pretty cool. So
Okay. We're looking forward to
yeah.
those episodes, and yeah, I know it's on all platforms, Spotify, Apple, all the podcast platforms. So again, just download and listen to Fierce in the Field for sure.
Yes, check
Uh,
it out.
yeah, check it out. Yes, definitely. So I want to go back into, as you said, you covered, racing, NASCAR and IndyCar. How's that atmosphere covering a live racing event compared to like basketball or baseball or anything like that? And what was one of the biggest takeaways from you working in production and talent development, as you said, teams at Fox Sports?
Oh my gosh, it's so fast paced. And
Mhm.
obviously like sports like basketball, football are fast paced as well, but it's kind of like what I talked about when I said I covered wrestling a couple
Yeah.
years ago. It's an experience I've never seen before.
Okay.
I wasn't necessarily an IndyCar and NASCAR fan before I covered them
Covered
for
it. Mhm.
sports as an intern. So just being able to get put in that environment was super cool. We were driving around golf courts all over the track and we were picking people up and doing this and that.
Mhm.
So it was cool to be on that side of things because really the broadcast experience that I had, even though it was for school, was, acting as talent, sideline
Right.
reporting, being on color, even being behind the camera a couple of times, but I've never
Mhm.
seen that side of things. So being able to actually see the entire track, all of the trucks, seeing all of the action, kind of getting a taste for everything for
Yeah.
a sport that I used to be so unfamiliar with was super cool. So I think just I was talking to a girl the other day. I was telling her about the internship. I'm like, this was an experience that you could get something away from wanting to pursue whatever you wanted. Whether you're
Mhm.
going into the business side of sports, marketing, PR, broadcast, producing, whatever you wanted to do, like you could take something away from running for a race in IndyCar, NASCAR, even working a baseball production, anything at all. This was just a really great experience. So,
Absolutely. And that's
yeah.
and you said that's, and again, talk about the importance of internship, because I know some of the people I've talked with on the show said, internship is very important, because it said it helps with developing, you said, developing skills, or just a part of the resume as well, but to learn to learn from wherever you're interning. I think it's very helpful. So talk about the importance of internship.
Oh my gosh, it's so important.
Mhm.
Um, I've had such great internship experiences, and I'm so thankful that I've been able to do those because they've helped me so much.
Yeah.
Obviously, you get those on hand experiences like those IndyCar and NASCAR races, but I also feel
Right.
like I've been able to meet so many important people and just being able to learn from them and ask them questions firsthand is super, super cool. Especially with my internship from Fox, I feel like I have connections for the rest of my life because of those relationships that I made, even with fellow interns. It's really cool to connect with people your age who are kind of
Yeah.
in a similar spot in their career as you and kind of learn from each other, ask each other questions because I don't know, I think I've always enjoyed having a group of people that are pursuing the same thing as me and I've like to kind of make that my core group. So it was definitely fun, but I think biggest takeaways is just the relationships from those internships are so so helpful.
Yeah, and that's you're right. The connecting and the
Yes.
relationships, and it helps. And then,
Yeah.
and so you've learned a lot, as you said, covering NASCAR and Indy. You said you wasn't a fan, but now you've been
Oh
covering
my
it.
gosh.
It's a different experience.
Yes, now I can watch a race and be like, "Oh my gosh, I've been there before.
Yeah,
I've
I've
done
been
that before."
there.
Which
I've
is
done
super
this.
cool. Yeah, because it's not, like I feel like the most popular at least for me when I was younger, I was like, "Oh, I wanna I still want to do this, like work in MLB or NFL. But now I'm like, no, you
Yeah.
know, I can do something different. Like I'm able to
Right.
put myself in that environment and get out of my comfort zone a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said you covered that, and you said you covered multiple sports. What sport, or what sport in the future that you would love that you haven't covered, would you love to report on in the future?
I haven't done a lot of football, and it's something
Okay.
I really want to do. There's opportunities at IU to do it, but nothing that fit with what I'm aiming for and my
Right.
schedule and things. I would love to cover it. I would love to do honestly anything in football. Love to do digital media for them, social media
Mm,
for them. It doesn't have to
yeah.
be broadcast, but um, I've been a f- I'm always a fan at the games, and I would love to actually work a game. I think it'd be really cool.
Absolutely, yeah, and there's always, as you said, when it fits, you'll definitely say, "Hey, I want to report on football. I want to do something, what you haven't done before." And you said you might get out of your comfort zone, but you find a way to learn and really commit to it as well. Let's
Yes.
say, what's some of your favorite moments in your career so far?
Oh my gosh, I have a couple.
Okay.
Um, okay, I'm gonna I think something that stands out is the first time I ever sidelined, which was
Mm,
for a women's soccer game about
yeah,
2 seasons ago. It was my first time doing it, and I was so nervous. I was a nervous wreck, you know,
yeah,
I've been on camera, I've anchored before, but I never did something live like that, yet alone
yeah,
sidelined before,
yep.
so it's a different scale. But I remember my first hit is still, I think, on a couple of my beginning reels, and it wasn't bad, but I
Yeah.
remember, like, after the first hit, I'm like, "Oh, this is super awesome, like, this is what I wanna do." And I was still a sophomore, so I was young, so I knew I wanted to work in sports at that point, but I was still trying to figure out, like, "Okay, what do I love to do?"
Yeah.
And that was important because I think it made me realize that I love to do sideline. So that was really awesome. And then this is a random one, but when I was in LA, I also worked as an editorial intern, which I think is also super important. Learning how to write is
Mm,
super important for
right.
journalists. And I needed to get used to that. I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I was such a bad writer coming into college. Now I think I've improved.
Yeah.
I worked as an editorial intern for a PR company called Press Pass LA, as well as my Fox Sports internship. And Press Pass also did red carpets, and they were credentialed for a lot of entertainment events like that. And they invited me to a couple of them. And the first one that they invited me to was for Cobra Kai, which is a series. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's
Yes. Mhm. Yep.
and I was like, "Oh, that's cool. Like, I'll totally tag along because I've never seen anything like that before." So I was like, "I wanna go."
Yeah.
Um, and I went, and my boss let me host the red carpet. So
Ooh.
I got to interview all of the actors and actresses on the red carpet, and it was nothing like I've ever done before. It was so new, but it was so exciting and just so cool.
Yeah.
Um, I knew a couple of them that I interviewed, like, from just watching TV my whole
Mhm.
life, Karate Kid. It was just
Karate Kid, yeah.
not
Mhm.
sports related, but it was such a cool moment that I feel like I had to bring it up because I felt like I was living a dream while I was doing it. So, it was really
Wow.
awesome. It was a cool moment for me, so
Yeah, to be able to, like you said, to be able to, and that's a whole different aspect of it, not sports related, just being on the red carpet, Cobra
yeah.
Kai. Like one of the, I remember when Cobra Kai first came on, and
Yeah.
I was thinking, is this gonna last? And then went on Netflix, and then it
Mhm.
just, it blew up, for sure. And yeah, this to be able to say, just to, again, show different types, different sides of what media can be,
Yes.
and entertainment, and it all intertwines, and you got a chance to do a red carpet Cobra Kai, you probably thinking, wow, okay, here, yeah,
I
yeah,
was like,
for
"Oh,
sure.
I'm here."
I'm here. Let's do it. What I got to do?
Oh, yeah.
Hey.
No, it was super duper cool.
Mhm.
And I love entertainment, and it's definitely something I'm willing to do in the future, but I was like, "Wow, this is." I mean, it's like something you see on TV that you never think you're gonna get to experience, and when you're there, you're like, "This is really awesome."
Yeah, that did. Yes, I've had that experience as well. Just something, not per se the red carpet, but just being at 2 years ago Super Bowl media row,
Yeah.
which has always been a dream, and finally got an opportunity to do that 2 years ago. And
No way.
yeah, and then with the network that the podcast is on, so we they've been over the last couple of years. I got a chance to go 2 years ago, and same thing. It's just like, wow, I never thought it would. When you're here, when you're there, it's like, oh my goodness. So yeah, I know those types of that type of experience when you say, hey,
Yeah.
just see it on TV and you kind of dream about it, and then you finally
Mhm.
got that opportunity, and hey, we took full advantage of it. So for
Yes.
sure,
Oh my gosh. Those moments are also so great because they stick with
they
you
are.
forever. Yeah,
Forever, yes,
forever.
forever. You got
Yes.
pictures, you got moments, and you said, "Oh my goodness, I interviewed all these actors of
Yeah.
Cobra Kai." Or yeah, yeah, it's one of those things you never forget.
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely.
Oh, I love it. I love seeing that as well.
Yeah.
All right, just got a couple more. You kind of talked about a little bit of like uh things you would love to do in the future. So what are some of your like long-term career goals and broadcast journalism? Is it anchoring, is it reporting, hosting, or just anything entirely of all all of those together?
Yeah, I mean, I wanna say all of those together because I
Hmm.
do love it all, and I like that I've been able to immerse myself in all different things. Like I just said, I was able to randomly do some entertainment while I was in LA. So
Yeah,
I
right,
love doing
right.
that. So it would be really cool to experience it all. As a young reporter graduating, I'm, aiming for that weekend sports reporter role, an anchor
Yeah,
role right out of college. But long term, I think the goal would to be a sideline reporter. That's probably my long term goal, whether that's for MLB or NFL, that would be super awesome. So that's the dream, but I also feel like so many goals of mine have changed over the past couple of years. So
right.
I could be saying something completely different in a year from now. So, you never know. But I want to just feel content with where I'm at and love what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing now in school. So I can only imagine how much I'm going to love what I'm doing in the future. So,
I love that.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you said things change so much, especially in this landscape of sports media, and we always have to always watch and on social media things change daily on with media and things like that. So yeah, we have to. There's all these sometimes trends, and then there's this happens, and then there's you have this, and the podcast is going here, and it's just like, oh my goodness, got to either. I mean, yes, we stay in our lane and everything, but things change throughout the sports media industry like every month. Is there something
Yes.
totally new?
Something's always changing, something's always different. And also, like, I feel like as I've been able to interview different women in the industry, like, everyone has a different path.
Yep.
Everyone really gets into it a different way, and I think that's super important to know because 'cause you're like, "I could do so many different things, and there's so many different opportunities out there." So, it's easy to get down on yourself a lot in this industry, but then it's also easy to pick yourself back up knowing how many opportunities are out there for you and the options that you have, especially with our ever evolving media environment that we're living in right now.
Yes, that's a good word. It does evolve.
Yes.
It
Oh, yeah.
evolves daily,
Uh-huh.
daily. There's always something a sports media personality has done, or you're thinking, oh, they're going here now, they're here now, they're
Yeah.
this, So yeah, for sure. All right, just a couple more. Go back to Fierce in the Field. What have you learned from the women you have interviewed on Fierce in the Field, and the importance of the importance of highlighting women? You kind of hit on that a little bit,
Yeah.
but the importance of that, and what have you learned from the women you've interviewed?
My gosh, so much. I think one, before I even answer this question, a huge takeaway that I've had from Fierce in the Field has been able to learn. Like, I've learned so much, so many different things from every single person that I've had on the show, and I think that's been probably the most special part about creating Fierce in the Field was the lessons that I've been able to take away from
Yeah,
it. One big thing, and we've already talked about this a little bit, is that everyone's at their own pace.
yep,
Everyone has a different path, and I think that's really important. As a woman in the industry, it's super hard to not compare yourself to other women.
mm, mm,
You see people doing something that you want to do or you want to get to right now, and you're not there yet. And it's not necessarily envy, it's just frustration with yourself. And I think I've learned to give myself a little bit more grace talking to everyone and hearing about how everyone's kind of gone into the industry because it's, again, super hard to get on yourself for things like that. But I've
yeah,
learned to just pick yourself back up. And you're going to have hard days, and that's okay. Because they're going to get better. So I think just one thing that I've learned is that everyone's, own race, own pace. we've got to just, everyone's kind of working with blinders on. And you're your own self and you have your own journey and your own path. And I think that's been something important. And it's definitely helped me just being able to have those conversations. So,
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing too. Everyone has a different journey, a
mhm.
different story, and I think one of your episodes, I think was with Casey actually, and how her journey, as she said, you know, there was points in her, and I know points in her career. She said that, okay, maybe I could have been here, or maybe I should have been here, but it was a different path for me to get here, or not comparing myself to this person and not
Yes.
compare yourself to that person, because you're right, you can get caught up in those things where you're comparing um to other people, like, well, why hasn't my career grown this way, or this person had a different path and they got there quicker than I did. And you say you
Mhm.
take those opportunities you can get, and you say you take advantage of those, and you say it's a pace. It's now this is your story, your pace, your journey. So yeah, I think that's really good. That would be my last question too. Like, advice would you give other younger women who want to pursue a career in the sports industry? Kind of hit on that. It's like, you go at your own pace, but any other advice would you
Yeah.
give young women that want to pursue broadcasting or media or sideline reporting, whatever the career they want to pursue?
I think number one advice is it's easier said than done, but don't be scared. I
Mm,
think
yeah,
embrace your confusion and embrace your questions. There's been so many times where I felt like, especially if you're the only woman in the room, oh my
yeah,
gosh, I don't know as much. I don't belong
mm,
here. I have a question. I can't ask that question. Like, I'm going to sound dumb. Ask the question. Yes, you do
yeah,
belong here. If you want to do
yep.
something and you want to pursue something, you can do it. And I think that's been probably the biggest lesson that I've had to teach myself in college, because you're around people that could know more about a certain sport than you, could know less about a certain sport than you, could be better at this, could be better at that, but you're just as good as them and you're just as worthy as pursuing this job. So I think embrace confusion, embrace your questions, and don't be scared to get out of your comfort zone. And probably my biggest piece of advice.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yes, because then someone else is thinking that same question,
Mhm.
and they might be scared to ask it. But if you ask it, they're like, "Hey, that was the same type of question
Yeah,
I wanted to ask," but you beat them to it. So you said, just I always say, yeah, I
exactly.
agree with that. You have to just do it. If you thinking of
Yes.
something, you got to just do it. Like you said, yes, it's gonna be nerves, gonna be, it could be scary, it's competitive, but if this is something you really want to do, you just got to go out there and do it at your own, you said, on your own race, your own pace. So
Exactly.
yeah.
You're never gonna know if you don't try. And
Yep.
that's, like, it
Yep.
could be something, could be the best decision, and even if it doesn't work out, then at least you tried. Now you know.
Now yeah, right.
Yes.
If they didn't work out, hey, you try
Yeah.
something else. Yeah, for sure. Josie, this has been incredibly. I've enjoyed this thoroughly, and really enjoyed getting to know you a little bit, and then your journey and all that. It's fascinating, and I look forward to see what you have coming up in the future. Best of luck and many blessings on your graduation, first and foremost, and then there as your career progresses as well. So I can't thank you enough for being on the show. So, but let everyone know first, before we let you go, where they can follow you, find you, subscribe to your show, to the
Yeah.
podcast, and all those things.
Yeah, well, Courtney, first I wanna say thank you so much for having me on. Again, I'm so honored
Absolutely.
that you thought of me as a guest, and I've really enjoyed this conversation. I love
Thank
doing
you.
things
Yeah.
like this. So, yeah, and congrats on the show. It's awesome. So,
Thank you. Appreciate
of
it.
course. Well,
Yeah.
my Instagram's Josie, Josie, and then Bryls. So kind of like my last name shortened. And then Fierce in the Field on all platforms, YouTube, TikTok, and Spotify. You can find it there. We're working on Apple. We've got to get it on Apple Podcasts, but
Yeah.
it's on Spotify and YouTube right now.
Yes, hey, they still got two of the biggest platforms there, so
Yes.
it'll be on Apple soon, I'm sure,
It'll
and
be on
everything.
Apple soon.
Yes, yes, all the Apple people, they'll be on there soon
Yes.
for sure. But thanks again,
Yeah.
Josie. I really do appreciate this conversation. Appreciate you
Thank
coming on
you.
in the time, and hopefully we'll do this again.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, Courtney. I can't wait to follow your journey too. I can't
Thank
wait to
you.
listen.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Yeah. So all right, well, you enjoy the rest of your evening, and talk to you next time. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
All right, you have a good one. All right, that was Josie Broyles. Fascinating story. Really enjoyed her on the episode. So check her podcast out as well. Fierce in the Field, she says, on YouTube and Spotify. Thanks, little DeAndre 23. Appreciate you coming on. In the comments, as I said, Josie Broyles, follow her Fierce in the Field podcast on YouTube and Spotify, and also follow her journey and broadcasting. And says she's been interviewing since the podcast was in June, so she's been interviewing a lot of incredible guests there. So all right, well, until next time. I don't think I got a show for a little bit, so taking a little bit of a break for this week, and be on the lookout for just more incredible guests coming up. NBA starts very soon, actually, so gonna do a lot of NBA coverage for the upcoming season. Of course, NFL with week 4, so be on the lookout for, again, some incredible guests, especially in October for NBA and college basketball, women and men. And like I said, the NBA, WNBA playoffs is in full force here. And so again, look out for a lot of basketball chatter within the next month. Until next time, thank you again for listening, and until next time, as always, peace. God bless.